Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
What a beautiful memoir. It's just, it's beautifully written. It's so sincere. And you wrote in this, Cindy, if I don't tell, he could hear it from someone else. Do you know, I knew that was gonna get the reaction. It did, because that's a part of it. You wanna tell them, but you don't want them to hear it from someone else.
Right.
When that first started to linger in your mind, was it very early on in your mom journey?
I think it really became an issue as he was getting older and he would talk about life issues and he was noticing more things in the world. And I realized he's going to become a teenager and want to have conversations about substance abuse. And it's really something he needs to know. He needs to know that this is part of his possible genetic makeup. And it's something he needs to know about me.
You shared photos in the book that you took in a photo booth with your son from a dance, and you talk about reflecting on this moment. You said, "This will be the last time he poses with me unaware of who I was in the years before he came. To me, with all the wonder and joy I had no right to ever hope for." That was, oh, that was a moment, and you captured it in that picture.
Yeah, I just didn't expect, after so many years of addiction, I never expected to have this beautiful life and this wonderful child. And the division between the life before and the life after was so sharp. It wasn't something I ever pictured.
Cindy, you wrote something in the book that I thought was so real. And, the whole book is real, but this really hit home. It says, "But what if the information about my past works not as a warning, but instead as a blueprint?" You know, that's another thing you worry about. You say, okay, well, I did this, and then they might say, well, you survived it, so I can try it.
Yeah, I think I was thinking about how this information changed how he saw himself because suddenly he's the child of someone who struggled with addiction, and he wasn't that in his mind before I told him. And I'm not sure how that changes how someone views themselves.
Well, especially when you know the news stories and the information we have about addiction and there being some links to hereditary traits. So
Yes.
now you are saying to him potentially, that doesn't mean it's so for him, but
Right.
potentially there is something that you would have to have a larger awareness of as you go through your life.
Right. And it was part of why I wanted to tell him also, because I think that's information he needs to have as he becomes an adult. There's a possibility that I could have issues with substance abuse because someone in my family did. That seems important for him to know.
Were you ever worried, because I think this is another thing, as you've talked with the book and openly advising parents or suggesting how you did it, the worry that that it would be used against you, that, you know, if not by him, by someone else, that the more you share about yourself, the more vulnerable you become to even your child.
I didn't worry about my child using it against me. And I think in part because I had been sober for 20 years, maybe would be different if I was still struggling. But I did worry that other people might use it as a slam or somehow.
Or as a judgment when reading this book. I do know that you've said in the last month or so that you've gone back to Narcotics Anonymous meetings to ground yourself. Because again, coming out as a mom, revealing this about yourself and revealing how much of it you share with your child does elicit, unfortunately, judgment.
Yeah, and I'm really glad I did that because it reminded me of what those rooms are about. How much love and acceptance, and people are just with very little in the way of tools or resources, supporting each other and keeping each other clean. And it just felt like coming home in a lot of ways.
What's your advice to other parents? You know, it may not be addiction. It may be, I have someone who didn't graduate from high school. They didn't tell their kid. They didn't want their kid to know because they want the child to graduate from high school. There's so many things that we all have that we perhaps don't even want to share with our children. What have you learned from this experience, going into those dark spaces?
I think that the message that my son, I'm hoping, and I think that he got, is that I'm showing him my flaws and mistakes, and I'm telling him by doing that that if he makes mistakes, I will love him as much as ever, and I'll embrace him as a whole person. I have to embrace myself as a whole person first.
I love it. Congratulations on the memoir. It is a beautiful tribute to real life. Cindy's memoir, Mother Noise, is phenomenal, and everyone in the audience is going home with a copy of this very important mother's journey. Thank you so much.